tonight it's Chiefs week. We got Kent Swanson from the KC Sports Network. We're going to be breaking down everything for this divisional round matchup. But first, our guys, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia Worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my late preparing partner in crime, Aaron Quinn.
What's going on, guys?
How we doing?
Not great. No, this has been a terrible week.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a creature of habit.
You see out of your house?
So I'm a creature of habit as is. Right. And so like any disruption to that's terrible. And so the game getting moved to Monday, totally horrible for me and like my normal preparation anyway. And then my wife had to travel for work, got stuck down there. Every flight canceled here today. So I had my kids home with me, prepping for the show, playing in the snow, shoveling out the neighborhood. I don't like it. I like the normal pace of I got a good thing going. Don't like it disrupted. So I'm a mess today, Greg. Late, but I'm here. Kids are asleep.
Yeah.
The door is open, so it's live TV here. One might pop through. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we're here.
I can't swear anything. They may jump on.
I don't know.
We had school canceled here because it was so cold in the morning. Tomorrow morning, school is delayed because it's still pretty cold. So all kinds of fun. We've been very fortunate. We have not gotten the amount of snow you guys have gotten, but we've had it's pretty miserable.
Cold's not fun.
Outside. It's like it like hurts when you go outside.
Can't go outside.
Although I mean, we were only like -10 when we have Ken on here in a moment. Like they were like -30. So like we're all living in just a winter wonderland here.
Yep.
So obviously tonight we are going to have Kent Swanson on from the KC Sports Network. This is the seventh matchup in 4 years. It's wild that these teams have now faced off so many different times. They're 3-3, but the two matchups that matter, KC has taken. They have knocked us out of the playoffs twice in the last 4 years. It is now in a position. I put out a tweet earlier that if we don't want to be the little brother, we got to be able to take them down. You have to beat Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, the defending Super Bowl champs. They've had moments where they looked beatable, like there was a chink in the armor, but here they are catching their stride at the right time. Best defense they've had, best run game they've had. They're the real deal. And if you want to do it, Ric Flair says, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So without further ado, let's bring on that man, Kent Swanson. Ken, we've talked a lot of times here. We've talked a lot of times.
We're back.
It's playoff time. And it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, round 7, ready to go again.
But this time it's here. Right?
Yeah, hey,
that's new. We get that.
Right.
That's a little new.
It's the first time that the Chiefs have played the Bills since the COVID year, and I think
first time like in front of Bills fans is legit first.
Yeah. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran duo like 15 times the last time they played in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been it's excited to be back for that. I'm kind of excited for it. It's first
another first for you guys though. Into first, how many playoff games have you covered?
A billion, it feels like, which is we're not used to, but it's like, I mean, the Patrick Mahomes called himself old before he played a road playoff game.
Yeah.
That's just wild. It is just so wild. But it's so fitting that it's Buffalo. Like it had to be Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, legitimately, as if I would be in the same boat, if I were in your guys' shoes, it had become like the Patrick Mahomes Invitational. It was, this was everything came through there, and goofy season, a lot of weird things, games that we're having, like where people lined up on the field, or games against the Raiders or losses against the Broncos are the reasons that home and away teams are it's pretty wild to be in that position where we've been. But I think both of these teams are good examples where we just saw the Cowboys flame out in the playoffs. We saw the Dolphins flame out in the playoffs. We've seen a lot of these teams that had moments where they were, number one in power rankings, shattering records, setting all-time record paces. And here they are, two teams that had moments during the year where I think both of us asked some pretty serious questions about what we're watching here. And now they're facing off again. Where are Chiefs fans? Obviously, you said it. You guys, on one hand, aren't used to it, but in the near term are kind of getting used to it, where the bar is so high of what you've been used to. Where are Chiefs fans of like what this team is?
So it's such a roller coaster. And like, I just remember the tenor we both had the last time we were talking. And I think I said on the show, like, this was essentially a playoff game for you. And like, it was the first of many playoff games for you. And I think you figured out, right? If the Chiefs beat the Bills in that game, I think you guys are out of the playoffs.
So let's
right?
rewind that, right? So that's 6-6 Buffalo, right? You guys, I think, were 8 wins at that point.
Yeah, it felt like 4, but
and that was right when that Sean McDermott article came out, and it was like, this season's just this is too much. This is about to totally fall apart. And then tough game against KC too, but that is really the pivotal turn for the Bills season at that point.
Yeah, and I think I felt like you guys were gonna get out of it. Like I think I might have even said something like I kind of had a feeling you guys were gonna get out of it. I think
you predicted coming back to the show.
I might have.
Yeah.
I think I might have, but I don't know. And like the tenor for Chiefs fans during that time was different. Like it was, we're winning games. We're not, losing games, but the vibes still weren't very good because the offense just looked severely disjointed and, just something that we really hadn't come accustomed to in Kansas City is watching this team slog it out on offense and just have the defense go out there and play well. So that's obviously, I think things have changed a lot for this team in recent memory. The vibes are drastically different than they were when these two teams played last. The vibes are different than when the Chiefs lost to the Raiders. I think just the last few weeks, things have kind of started to round out and things have really started to shift in a direction that Chiefs fans are feeling really good after that Dolphins game.
So that's what I wanted to ask really is since that meeting, because it really isn't that long ago, right? In like the actual scheme of time, but in NFL, it's forever ago, right? And that is a totally different Bills team than what you're going to see. And it does feel like, as watching the last few games here, trying to get ready for this, it's not the same Kansas City team. And I like to use the word vibes, right? Because that's like sort of out there. Can you elaborate on a little bit more specific? Because I agree with you, though. The vibe of this team feels a little bit, it was shaky the last time we saw them. And that kind of translated on the field. That shakiness seems gone, even though it's not the juggernaut Chiefs that we're used to seeing. There's more confidence and swagger here coming into the playoffs.
Yeah. And I don't think they've done so much that they have, like that they're not an offensive juggernaut, like to your point, and
Sure.
the vibes are just better. I don't know if it's swag as much as is the vibes are finally good. And they finally found a rhythm on offense. They finally found a formula that should work well for them. The truth of the matter is the Chiefs made a lot of the same mistakes that they've made all season in that game against the Dolphins. Like the bingo card got filled out still because you had holdings and blocks in the back and
Stalls in the red zone,
drops and stalls in the red zone. I mean, every which way those mistakes were still happening, but they didn't happen at the same kind of clip that they have. They weren't as backbreaking when they had happened. And the Chiefs kind of everything in between those mistakes was really, really good. Like the best we've seen all year.
It also helped that Tua cannot throw a frozen football at all,
No.
like not even a little bit.
I watching back on the all 22, it made me appreciate what Mahomes did in that more, just because it was in obviously comparing it against Tua, but like it was way harder than Mahomes made it look for the majority of that game. So I think, I walked away pretty impressed from that. And I mean, hopefully that serves them. Like, this should feel like a beach day up in Orchard Park compared to what that weather that they just experienced. It has been awful here in Kansas City for like a week. It just went above freezing today for the first time in like 10 days.
Well, you want to know the wild part? Like, people think like the relative nature of like, oh, it's really cold, so it's just, that it's going to be like that, and that it's hard to think that, well, it's not going to be nice in Buffalo on Sunday. It's going to be cold. It's very likely going to be in the low 20s. Maybe the wind chill's like 18 or something like that. There's a chance that is almost 50 degrees different than how cold it was in that game. It's certainly going to be a full 30 to 40 degrees difference in that. When you're talking negative 25, like, that's so wild. It's going to be, it was, -8 to -10 in actual temperature. By the end of the game, it was almost down there at -10. So you're talking like a genuine 30-degree difference in real temperature, and then the wind was a little stronger than what it was. So I expect the weather to be closer to the game we watched against the Steelers. We're going to get snow again in between. We're going to have to shovel out the stadium. We're going to have a lot of the same issues, a little bit more lead time on this game. But I think anybody who watched Buffalo, Pittsburgh, it's going to be a very similar in-game weather experience. It's just going to be a wintry day, I believe. Cold, affecting kickers, some of the throws here or there, but way less so than the KC Miami game.
It didn't seem like the weather. Yeah, it didn't seem like the weather affected the game against the Steelers all that much. It just seemed like a beautiful day where it just had snowed for a week. And it was
kicking
awesome.
game was a little wonky, but I don't know if it was weather related.
Yeah, that was something. Because one of them was a relatively long kick, right? Like, I think they kind of said maybe 5 yards shorter than you normally would kick in a situation like that, and they tried a little bit of a longer one that got blocked, right? And the hook, but I don't know.
Yeah, and the weird one, it got blocked. Not only, like, you see blocks and like it'll flutter up or go, you don't normally see a block that goes backwards 35 yards. Like, it was wild the way that it went. So far that our punter sprinted and pulled a hamstring because he ran so far. As a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So wild.
All right,
wild.
Let's get into the matchup here. I'll start a little bit on defense, and I think the big piece here, we talked last time about Trent McDuffie and the weapon that he's become. Obviously, Chris Jones is still having a phenomenal season. I think he's arguably the most disruptive internal defender in the NFL. But a piece that we touched on last time, but it's really solidified to me. I don't know that I saw the ceiling of L'Jarius Sneed being like a number one lockdown guy. He was good. He had a lot of like I don't know, like Marcus Peters to me, like making plays, but like you could also get him sometimes in that you'd see, and he'd be aggressive and he'd go for a ball, kind of the Trayvon Diggs side of things previously. And now you can't get anything. Like, you just cannot move the ball. And like, I wanted to look through and I was trying to figure out, like, is that just like the highlights or people talking? And I look and like, no, like career best in catch rate given up, career low in passer rating against. And like, when I say career low, like, he already had a 66 on his record. Now it's a passer rating of 54. He already had catch ratings of 70 and 63. Now it's 50%. He's only given up 50% on the same number of snaps and fewer targets because people won't throw at him. I'm just, can you put your finger on how he's taken that next step to now be, right up there as one of the lockdown corners in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always seen flashes of it with him, but I think there's just like an extreme level of confidence and aggression that he's playing with now, where, I mean, he's unafraid to challenge anyone, and he's just going to go out there and he's going to try to, he's going to play physical with them. He's going to try to set the tone early in the game, and he's going to, like, it's a level of physicality out there is where it kind of starts, and he's always had that, but it's different now. Like, it's different this season than it's ever been. And, like, he kind of went viral with what he did to Tyreek, and, not a lot of people really like to do that to Tyreek or have a lot of success trying to do that. Maybe it's just because it was cold. I don't know. But he's also done that several times to other, players this season. He kind of tends to rough them up early. he'll probably get a penalty early in the game. I think he got a penalty early against Stephon Diggs, if I remember correctly. He's done that a few different times,
But Diggs only had 4 for 24. Also,
yeah, I think he drew a penalty early. Like he normally draws one early and all that. But but then after that, it's just we're gonna rough you up. We're gonna play physical at the line of scrimmage, and then schematically, he plays so great within what Steve Spagnuolo does. The Chiefs do like to play a lot of that 2-high still, and so he's gonna get some protection over the top sometimes here and there as well. So.
It is 17 penalties on the year. That is a higher number than I would have expected.
Yeah. So like, I mean, but it all plays into his style and his game. And I mean, what they,
a lot of those guys, they push the line to figure out like, hey, how much you gonna let me get away with here? And if I keep grabbing and like, hey, I'm 2 yards down the field, I'm 3 yards down the field, I'm 4 yards down the field, and they go, all right, you're gonna call it now, all right, okay, and then they go back and like, all right, I'll do one step on that side
of the boundary,
line,
man,
because I've now figured out what you're gonna let me get away with.
Yeah, and I think that's just it's been a lot of that. So like it's all stemmed from physicality, and he's an incredible linear athlete, and people don't realize that he's a very, very good athlete, especially linearly. Which plays well to what the Chiefs have done historically with Steve Spagnuolo as well.
So on the second level, the last time we were talking, it was a lot of guessing of, hey, what's going to happen now? Because we were just getting Nick Bolton back. And we're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to fit in where? Because you had this big step forward from Drew Tranquill. And, hey, who are they going to sit down? And it's turned out the answer is no one. Like they're finding this mix and match combination. And you look at the Dolphins game and Bolton's on the field almost every snap. And like he's there as the centerpiece. And then you look and it's Tranquill for 17 snaps. It's Chenal for 11 snaps. It's Gay for 23 snaps. How are they figuring out this mix and match of, is it as simple as like, matching personnel from the other side? Is it a rotation? Is it, more likely run fit versus obvious passing downs? How are they figuring out who the other chess piece is next to Bolton?
So, and I don't know if we have a good feel entirely yet either, believe it or not, even though we've seen some recent, sample size of it. I'm not sure that you're not going to see Drew Tranquill in an uptick in this game going next to Nick Bolton, because those have been the two best linebackers. Typically, your earlier downs, you're going to see a Willie Gay, though. You're going to see a Leo Chenal. That's been pretty consistent. The Chiefs have actually pulled off. So one of the things that they've kind of done, and we've done some studies on this, is, Bolton will start the game. I think they'll pull Nick for one drive pretty quick and let Tranquill take over the mic, go through some adjustments with Nick, and then Nick plays primarily the mic the rest of the game. And after Nick comes back on the field, they've been markedly improved on a EPA perspective. It's been kind of interesting. So Drew will get a little run at the mic, and then they'll give Nick some time to go through the adjustments with the coaches. He'll come back out, and then they've been a lot better for the rest of the game after that too. So it's kind of interesting to see that. But I wouldn't be stunned if Drew Tranquill gets a little bit involved in some more situations this week, just because they've played with it a little bit. Both have been on the field some, but I think they might be due, especially with I think Drew with Josh. The Bills didn't see Drew Tranquill last time that these two teams played, so I think Drew's a really good asset to have with Josh Allen, and so I could see Drew getting some uptick with Nick on the field, just both of those two running together.
So one last one on the front. Obviously, I'm going to bring up the injury report here in a second, because I think the only real guy in question is on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously Chris Jones is a monster. I expect, again, like I think the Bills did a decent job in the last game. And in my mind, I was like, all right, we didn't let Chris Jones take it over. I go back and look, it's 7 pressures, a sack, 3 quarterback hits, 3 hurries, and be like, all right, well, I guess I didn't do that good of a job. So he's ridiculous. I expect, again, he's the kind of player that you're hoping on our side that he only makes one big play and it's not constant disruption and chasing Josh all the time. The interesting part for me is seeing the step forward. Karlaftis has ended the year really well, and a guy that I actually liked in free agency and wasn't super excited when you guys signed, Charles Omenihu, started to come into his own and really start to play a little bit more, especially those are two like stronger power ends that can play well when you have a guy disrupting in the middle, and all of a sudden, like, hey, that compressed pocket, you don't have anywhere to go, because those are guys who can push a tackle back in there. how are they learning to play off of Jones and what he creates with that? Now those two starting to get, more than twice as many pass rush reps as anybody else coming off the edge.
Yeah, Charles Menahue's slowly just getting back into the swing of things, obviously with the 6 games that he missed early, and he's just really come on strong late. Like, he definitely looks like, the guy that the Chiefs were hoping that they were getting when they signed him early in the year, with coming off of the suspension. And, I think the thing is you can see them start to move Menahu around a little bit more. And I think that's probably a sign of the comfortability they have with him, the comfortability that he has within the scheme. And he's been awesome. I mean, he's been absolutely awesome. And one of the things that the Chiefs are really good at with Steve Spagnuolo is their games up front. They've got a lot of games that they like to run, and they have really good complementary pieces to go with an Menahu and a Chris Jones, because Mike Dana is kind of like he's like their glue guy when it comes to being able to execute those games up front. He's got the inside outside versatility too. So I think Menahu and Chris will be moving around a lot this week. They'll go matchup hunting, both of them, I think. And I think they've done a really good job of staying out of Chris's way. But doing a pretty good job with contain rush for the most part too for the season as well. So that'll be something to pay attention to.
Yeah, one of the pieces here, I think the injury list for the Chiefs is long, but I think a lot of it seems more precautionary. The one name at the top, we've seen more snaps for Tashawn Wharton and Mike Pennell because of Derek Nottie. Is that something that there's a possibility of? I know that we saw also they opened the window on Sky Moore now. We didn't see Kadarius Toney. That's a possibility. Anyone there that you think is a concern for missing the game coming up here on Sunday?
So Derek Nottie, I don't anticipate is going to play. He got ruled out in that game this last week. I would be kind of surprised if he's able to play. Mike Pennell did do a really good job in his stead. They got Neil Farrell, who's been on the roster for this entirety of the season. They traded for him right before the year, and he's just played in very limited snaps. But he's a kind of a more of a nose type that you could see him get involved. Those limited participants, man. I don't know if Snead's playing. Kadarius Toney, I don't know if he's going to play, and I don't know if him or Sky Moore are going to be active. We'll see. We can talk about the offense here in a little bit, but I don't know about their roles moving forward, and I don't know how eager the team really is to get them back on the field. I mean, Kadarius Toney was, I believe, technically a healthy scratch last week. So,
I wondered that when I saw some people reporting on that they put him on the injury report and then he was scratched, so people just assumed it was connected there. But some folks like yourself and some others around the team I saw kind of speculate. They're like, no, you're gonna keep recovering.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. So we'll see. You can tie some huge moments for this team losing some games to him. Like it might be an Arrowhead right now if Kadarius Toney doesn't Kadarius Toney a few of these games. Joke. So I don't know. Things have looked a lot better without him and without Sky Moore on the field. So I'll say that.
Well, so let's dip over to that side, right? Because I want to take over now anyway, and we'll jump right into the wide receiver room, because that's one of the questions I want to ask. Is like, so what happened? Because a year ago, there was people being like, wow, this Kadarius Toney thing might be a thing. Like, he's making plays in the playoffs, and it has fallen off so much in a year's time. But then the Sky Moore thing, obviously, you have an injury. But then the team, to your point, that vibe on offense, it's tough for him to just, how does he hop right in? And so there's some weird things. It's a bit of a weird wide receiver room, but Rice really starting to take off since we last saw, and like in a scary kind of way. So talk a little bit how this has evolved since the last time the Bills have seen this particular room, and what to expect going into this weekend.
Well, and a lot of the problem is that it hasn't evolved in so many ways until recently. And I think that's been the problem is, Kadarius Toney gets hurt, right? He literally gets hurt before the first practice of training camp. One of his biggest issues, has a slow time catching up. They had, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were touted as the reasons for optimism for the Chiefs wide receiver room heading into the season. If you think about that, Sky Moore is taking the step. He's following Patrick Mahomes all around Texas, and Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs see as a wide receiver one. Potentially, or potential wide receiver one, or whatever. And both of those guys they've fell flat on their face. They've not been good. Sky Moore's regressed. They both regressed. They've both regressed, and they've not been good. And they've made big mistakes in big games. And Sky Moore was on the field a lot, still not getting open. Patrick Mahomes doesn't trust Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney when they try to give him opportunities to be electric with the ball in his hands. He drops it. So the Chiefs got back to the basics. They simplified a lot of stuff. They leaned a little bit more on their tight ends from here and there, but they put players on the field that Mahomes can trust, that Mahomes can, rely on a little bit more consistently. Rashee Rice, definitely, he's the guy that took off, man. He's gotten better and better, and this last week was a big moment of growth for him, seeing him do some of the things that he did, seeing a hot, and making sure he's seeing stuff there. He's moving well and better against zone coverage and away from away from coverage, and he's really the one that's been really a change agent. So the offense is funneling through him and Kelsey and Pacheco, and then some of these more reliable secondary pieces. They're still getting involved, like a Watson, Noah Gray, and those kind of guys, and
Mahomes legs.
Yeah. That's just like it's a combination of a lot of things, but just trying to find more consistency and better footing and more trust on the field more than they've had in a while. So.
Well, one unit that has had consistency, and we've been able to have some of this in Buffalo, and I think that was, for us, maybe one of the more frustrating things about this season and the way the offense looked at times was we finally got an offensive line that we felt good about, investments over time, and then they stayed healthy throughout the entire season. You guys had that too. And that having gone through many runs, and we've been up there with you guys many runs, like it's hard, especially at that unit, to stay healthy. What has that meant to this unit going forward? And how big is that to have a veteran, not only a unit healthy, but a veteran unit that has a lot of playoff experience under their belt, all healthy, gelling together at the same time heading into the playoffs?
It's kind of like, I think it all ties to the interior first off. Like, I think the interior is what has been such a bastion of consistency. Because the funny thing is the Chiefs actually have two tackles different from the last time, from last season. Both their tackles are different. Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith, and they haven't been the most consistent players, but the interior has been steady. I mean, Trey Smith played some of his best football recently, and Joe Tooney, we all know what he is, and having those three along the interior has been such a huge help. And
we hate talking about Creed Humphrey here. Like, it's not something we really. It's a bad draft memory for us.
Is it like a sore subject?
It is a little bit. He's perfect for the process. Like, have you seen the guy Sean McDermott likes? Like, that he had camo hats in his Instagram. Like, this guy is.
He was like Sean McDermott wanted to wrestle him in the pre-draft warm-ups.
It was a lock. We thought this was a lock.
Believed in faith. He checked every one of the archetype ones. Aaron opened it up, so I'm gonna tell the story again.
Yeah.
I have my family staying with us for draft weekend. And we're playing rummy at the table. And the night before we had picked Gregory Rousseau, which is kind of a surprise, but all right, we got a defensive end. And it's going. I'm pretty Creed's by far the number one guy on our board. We did a ton of work on him. It was a need because of the Mitch Morris concussion history and the progression and
guard. We could use him as a guard.
Yeah, it was like
the Eric center Wood later.
Eric Wood played guard his first year, then shifted to center. We're getting ready. I'm like, oh my god, don't take him. He's there. They're ready to go up on the board. I stand up. I'm like, God, this is going to be it. We did all the work on him. It's going to be great. And the Bills select, boom, and it's Carlos Basham. It's a second defensive end. I said the F word in front of my mom while we were sitting there. I was so mad. Not
a great day.
Oh my God, I lost my mind.
That's awesome. All right, return. Sorry.
Well, I don't think you're going to have another Chiefs center, rolling into Buffalo anytime soon either, because I have a feeling that the Chiefs will probably extend him. Yeah. He's the one. I think they'll let Trey walk when it's all said and done. But I think the interior has been really strong. Donovan Smith actually came back. His first action back in a month was the playoff game against the Dolphins, and we'll see if that means anything, right? Donovan Smith's been a little bit up and down this season, but he looked good against Yumi and Aaron rushing here, Greg. Again, so we'll see. They've done a good enough job though, and the interior is really
Patrick helps. He makes it. It's just like Josh helps.
Tackle play wasn't great last year. I mean, but to your point, just having continuity and having consistency and having guys not miss time has been pretty important. Yeah. And 4 of them have been together for most of the year, and there really wasn't a big drop off when Wanya Morris had to play at left tackle when when Donovan was there. So they're in good shape there, I think, on the front.
And so normally I'd run through the other position groups, but really I think the thing that interests me the most, and that you're a smart football guy, so I want to get your opinion on. I think the Chiefs offense is actually super close to being that juggernaut that we've seen. And it is similar to what we experienced here in Buffalo, where things were just going wrong in the red zone. And I kind of spent a little bit of time here trying to pinpoint what is exactly going wrong for you guys. And I think we might have even talked about this in the last matchup, because I had offense there too, of what is stalling out. Can you pinpoint it? Because turning some of those threes into sixes, it looks a lot more like the KC offense we used to see. And even though it was a dominating win against the Dolphins, into that third quarter, I was like, man, it would have been nice to have one of those be a touchdown. And you're still kind of like, you're let the Dolphins kind of hang out in that game. And I don't think you want to do that with Buffalo, right? And so, like, how do you take that step to convert those drives and get back to that more dominating, where even just 7 more makes all the difference in the world?
And so I think it's coming. And here's why.
Hopefully not.
I know. So Bengals game, same problem. Stalled out in the red zone, had some opportunities to be aggressive on fourth down, just chose to kick it. Just said, we're going to take the points. We're going to keep, putting points on the board. We trust our defense. We've got, Jake Browning figured out. That's what happened. Chiefs win. Last week, one of the end zones was unplayable. And you could watch the receivers trying to getting out of their breaks, trying to run routes into the end zone. No touchdowns were scored in that end zone. There was a touchdown that was called back, but it was on a slip screen to Rashee Rice. The Chiefs were a lot better converting on the other side of the field, able to run some routes into the end zone. They felt pretty good about it, right? So I thought that they actually showed better signs of executing in that game than it looked, especially considering they were trying to call plays, and it was very obvious. I mean, why are you throwing? We were asking questions. Why are you throwing a third down string? It's because of that they couldn't get footing in the end zone. So their decision making and their play calling was not what you would anticipate if both end zones were functioning.
Gotcha.
But the other thing I think that you can pay attention to is the best way to solve your red zone offense problems is just to score touchdowns outside of the red zone. And the Chiefs haven't done a great job of that, but I think they're getting close. I think they're starting to find better footing in the vertical passing game.
There's a couple close shots.
Yeah, I think McCole, they're going to have to go back to McCole Hardman, and we'll see whether or not it was excuses from that game or not, because one, he lost, one, he stopped running on, one, he started complaining to the ref before the play was even over, but he had him beat. And so I'm very curious to see if they can hit one of those vertical shots down the field. I think things are kind of starting to come together for this offense. And I think you've seen them build the last few weeks, and I think they are close. I'm with you. I think they're very close to busting this thing open, and it could have it. I mean, I think if it happens this week, I think the Chiefs are going to win.
So one last piece on offense before we ask for a prediction. One of my favorite games is to go onto Twitter and use the quotes to get the exact phrase. And I like to search for Pacheco runs like, because Isiah Pacheco runs like his job is to run, and he just got caught not running by a supervisor. Isiah Pacheco runs like he bites people. Isiah Pacheco runs like a toddler trying to avoid bedtime.
I love it. I love the way he runs.
Isiah Pacheco runs like a 6-year-old showing off to everyone at a family reunion how fast he is. Isiah Pacheco runs like he's in a Busta Rhymes video. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, they're great.
Angry at the ground. Isiah Pacheco runs like an alien that was explained what running is. Isiah Pacheco runs like the ground owes him money. That's my favorite one.
Oh, that's a good one. The one I think it was Brett Coleman said something like his family's held hostage and the only way to release it is if he averages 4 yards per carry or something like that. And so it's just like he's just gonna run as hard as humanly possible any given play. It's incredible. You guys didn't get the Pacheco experience last time, did you?
Yeah.
He wasn't playing that game.
So we'll have the whole experience this
Fun
time.
stuff.
Is going to be
not looking forward to it with the questions at linebacker here for Buffalo. We haven't even gotten to that side with it for you, but do not want. No, thank you. No tight ends, no running backs.
No
Rashee. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So, give us a prediction. What do you expect to see this Sunday night? It's the finale. It's the first one in in Buffalo that Mahomes has had to do in front of Bills Mafia. Our kind of stat specialist Adam Pencil found an interesting one that home field advantage has been huge for the Chiefs' pass defense in 2023. On average, they give up an additional 10.8 expected points per 60 plays, so a significant EPA difference on the road versus at Arrowhead. I think a lot of defenses are that way, but I know feeding off that crowd noise, being able to get things rolling, and that where it feels like it's just kind of compounding on you, having that setting here and now having to come the other way. What are you expecting to see Sunday night? You said that maybe this is that explosion from an offensive standpoint. Give us a score prediction.
So last time I came on this show, I told you guys the Bills were winning the game.
That's because you were saving it for this one.
I wasn't saving it for that one. I genuinely believed it. I picked it. I bought it. I just had a feeling you guys were going to win. I just trust what you guys have in Buffalo too much to say that they're not going to figure things out. All the underlying metrics looked like you guys were a lot better than 6-6. And I mean, it was a very close game. And, the Kadarius Toney and lining up, in the Bills backfield and all that. I mean, Josh would still got the ball with a minute and a half left. We don't talk enough about that.
There was more game to be played. We got robbed of an
opportunity.
Fourth finish.
Yeah. I'm picking the Chiefs this time. I really like what they found. I think they're building offensively. I think they've started to find their identity finally. The defense has been awesome. The defense is healthy. For the most part, they're going to have their full rotational linebackers. The pass rush is coming on strong. And Steve Spagnuolo, you cannot discredit Steve Spagnuolo. And he's been so good in the playoffs, and he's always got something in his bag. I know everyone's talking about what he did with the little fun cover one back to cover two rotation. Cover one, you see what I did there. But I like what they have right now. And I think, the offense is close. I think they're going to put together a really strong performance. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be excited to play in a road game. And I don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I refuse to do it in the playoffs. So I'm going to go 30-24. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think the Chiefs are going to put some points on the board. And I'm picking them this time. I like the vibes a lot better this time around than I did the last time that these two teams played. And I mean, what you guys have done is incredible. Like, this year, like just coming back and being in this spot is, man, I think this is where it ends.
I gotta then, fair. I can't say I agree, but fair. So I got to ask you though. So if you're advancing here, what's your faith in Kansas City to be able to go on and represent the AFC in another Super Bowl? If they can get past the Bills here, because it doesn't feel like in the past when they've met, where it's like whoever wins this one is going to be the Super Bowl champ. It's questionable. How do you feel though?
Me and Greg talked. I think we both thought, we felt pretty good about it. Yesterday. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. Like, I don't trust Baltimore entirely.
Yep.
I don't trust Lamar entirely.
Well, and it's the opposite of what you just said with Mahomes. Mahomes had moments during the year where like, hey, is this going to be there? But now it's clicking, and we've seen it so many times, so consistently in the playoffs that you'd be crazy not to pick your guy. Like he's come through for you so many times. Lamar has been the opposite. Lamar has been phenomenal in the regular season, and he's 1-4 in the playoffs, and he's been the reason they've gotten knocked out in the 4 times in the playoffs. He has to show that he can come through to get people to have faith and to pick him.
Well, and like, let's look on the other side of the ball too. For both of these teams, whoever wins this football game,
guys,
it also might be Houston.
It might be Houston,
but okay. So I mean, the Ravens, they really like to pressure teams. They like to blitz. They like to be aggressive there. That doesn't do well against Mahomes, and I don't. Right. Yeah. You can feast against bad quarterbacks.
Vic Fangio didn't know that, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I have a hard time betting against the top quarterbacks, period. Yeah. And I look at Josh differently than I look at Lamar. And I look at Mahomes differently than I look at anyone, at this point. But so I think I think one of these
CJ
quarterbacks
Stroud
is
to the Super Bowl. I get it. I get what you're saying.
CJ might be him.
He might
be him.
He's nice.
We might
It's
have a
sick.
problem here, boys.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Do the rest
wait
of us like at the
for this
top have to
balloon to
call a
pop.
meeting? All the top fan bases be
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
Hey.
We got
that
enough
was a
of 'em.
fun story for a minute here, but hold on a minute.
I'm kind of enjoying the rookie season, but I'm pretty sure we're just gonna be like cursing CJ Stroud by next year. He's gonna make it really hard for us to keep meeting. So like I don't know, man. But I trust the two quarterbacks playing in Buffalo this week more than I trust any quarterbacks left. I think so. I think that's the list.
All right, let the folks know where they can find more good work and all the cool things you guys have going on at KCSN.
Yeah, so KC Sports Network, we're on YouTube. Where you can go to our social media, KC Sports Network. We're gonna have a game preview live show on Thursday if you want to see, another side of the enemy and just kind of see that. So you can kind of get our perspective on the game and kind of how we see both sides of the ball, Bills and Chiefs. So go check all that out. And as always, I love you all very dearly. I love Bills Mafia, and I love doing the show with both of you. And I hate that we keep having to do this. And
just let us get one, and then we can just both be so less stressful.
Exactly.
Like
Because
then
the fan
it just
bases
be
are
way
so
less
close.
stressful. We can just have a good time. We just need to get the one.
Greg,
just
we
always-
talk about this all the time. These fan bases are a lot closer,
Yeah.
like relatives in the football spectrum
Oh,
than we think we are when we meet and on Twitter and how aggressive it gets. It's like small cities, cold, like battered fan bases until recently for you guys, and like
Well,
now
I mean,
coming
like,
into great success.
famously good support with
Yes.
a 50-year gap between championships.
Literally, the argument of who's the best tailgate is like
philanthropy.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have
Yeah.
that. Obviously, like there's a lot of that in KC too. And like we're cut from the same. We're cut from the same cloth. I genuinely believe that. And every time the Chiefs have beat the Bills in one of these games, I've just wanted to hug Greg. I think I've sent him hug emojis after games in the
He
past.
needs it.
I hate
He
that.
needs it.
I
Greg
refu-
after a loss it's tough. I have to drag him back out to society.
I refuse to talk smack in these
Yeah.
games just because
We
I love you
appreciate
guys.
it.
And,
So.
yeah, I mean, and I mean this genuinely. I have, obviously all the division stuff is always there. Like I'll always, my biggest one is the Miami because I grew up Marino versus Kelly. That's like my rivalry. We never really had the back and forth with New England. They destroyed us, and now it's fun to just smack them down. That's never been good my whole life. So like I don't like them, but I've never been there. And I have other, like, I don't like the Cowboys. I don't really like the Titans. I don't really like the Bengals. Like I love Chiefs fans. I get along with so many of them. I enjoy watching. Like I don't love you guys are winning a little more than I would like. But like I rooted for you guys when you was in the first Super Bowl, and like to be able to get that championship the same way. Like I was excited for Detroit on Saturday night, like seeing those guys react in that way, and like 31 years without a playoff win and those things. Like I have a kinship with like Chiefs fans, that it's fun. And like I said, like I'd really like to get one. Like I'd really like to get one here, and then we can have the back and forth and let it be like a Manning and Brady kind of thing. And like that's fine. If you guys get a couple more than us, okay. But I'd really like to get one.
I just want one.
Really, really nice.
I get it. And I can just tell you, like, I think at least for me personally, it feels Brady Manning-ish to me still, even though there isn't a ring on Josh's finger yet. That's what it feels
It's
like.
Manning
to me.
some time.
And there's some corollary in if you look at like the number of times and like the head start that Brady got, and then when Manning finally did break through, it lines up a little bit. It lines up a little bit.
Yeah, as long as we can all just collectively hate on the Bengals,
That's great.
then I think we're going to be just fine. Cancun on 3.
We can do that.
All right, man. We appreciate it. Always a pleasure. Hopefully, both teams stay healthy here, and that the winner of this the game does go on and take it down. And we'll hope for really entertaining. And again, they've given it to us, these heavyweight bouts back and forth, throwing haymakers. It's been literally some of the best games in modern football history. Yeah. I expect nothing different coming up on this Sunday night.
Oh, you know who I'm rooting for if the Chiefs don't make it out of it.
That's it. One of us old AFL teams gotta be the one.
There we
go.
That's it. All right. Appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
We'll talk soon.
Yes.
So it's, I both love Kent coming on, and I hate that we still have to keep going through them. Like it's just, they're so good, and they this year, so many fans had it built up in their mind that, they're falling by the wayside. They're not going to be the same Chiefs. Like, they're losing it. And now, if you haven't watched them closely these last couple weeks, Pacheco's looking really good. Rashee Rice is a thing. It's really come to that point where, if we don't want to be the little brother, if we want to be able to be taken seriously on their level, this is the year. You have to beat them. You have it at home. You have the opportunity. Neither team is fully healthy, but here's a good one for the guys over at hashtag Pacheco runs with the cap locks on. This is the year. This is the year you got to take them down. You got to be able to win this game. And if you want to be taken seriously and not have it be that they are our own personal glass ceiling, this is the year. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things I realized this year is recency bias sucks, and the media loves to jump on it. Like, look at the Eagles, for instance.
Yeah,
this
they
time
were 10-1 not that long ago,
dude, and people were crowning them, right? We continue to do that, and we write teams like the Chiefs and Bills off, and then here they are. And I think it goes to one, it's a long season, and even when it's cut in half and your team is 6-6, there's still a lot left. Talking about this KC game feels like forever ago. These teams are forever ago. Now we're here into the playoffs, and we're talking about teams ramping up at the right time. It also goes to show you that type of experience of having a coach like Sean McDermott. I know he was on the hot seat here this year, but having those types of coaches that have the experience to get your team ramped up, they went a little too far with it this year, putting themselves back into a wall. But there is something to knowing your team can't crescendo too soon, right? That's what happens to Miami year in and year out. That's what happened to Philly this year in getting everything clicking going into the playoffs. And Andy Reid continues to do it. Sean McDermott's done it this year. And now you're seeing in the divisional round, the two teams that everybody wrote off like they were going to be done now have a chance to advance and play in an AFC championship game. And I do agree with you. It's got to be getting this off your back. I've made that analogy for years to the Michael Jordan going up against the Pistons, right? Yep. And the Pistons got the better of the Bulls many of those late 80s.
They were the ones that knocked them out.
They knocked them out and went on to win championships. And Isiah Thomas and all those guys, they were the best team in the world and they had championships. And then all of a sudden you are able to finally do that. And I agree. If you can't do it this time, I don't know that you ever do. At some point, Michael Jordan had to get over it and had to get over Bill Laimbeer elbowing him in the face and stop making excuses and get the job done. I think now this is that opportunity. The Bills have made the excuse that it wasn't at home and all that stuff, and they weren't able to play here in front of their fans and get that experience. And now you've got that, and you've got a team. You're going to have a stadium full of fans. The weather should, to your point, shouldn't be a problem. We should have it all shoveled out within time for the game. None of that should be an issue. The excuses have to stop. Nothing's gone totally wrong. It might be some inconvenience with weather here this week, but you have the opportunity. Everything's right in front of you. There's no excuses now. Go out, take care of business, and show that you are that team ready to make that leap. So yeah, I agree with you. It's time to beat the big brother and become the team in the AFC here.
And a point we didn't get a chance to talk about with Ken just because we were already running long, but he talked about how close they are to exploding and being able to take that next step. But what you touched on is some of that. They did a lot of that against Miami too. Like, I don't know that you're going to beat Buffalo with field goals that are 28, 26, 32, and 21 yards. That means all four of those were red zone field goals. I don't know that you're going to get into the red zone that many times and not convert and be able to beat Buffalo. I think you're going to have to do that. So even some of the things like Rashee Rice does seem like a real thing. We're going to have a plan for him. I certainly hope Rasul Douglas being back will make a big difference here. But it's something that we need to be ready for and need to be able to take that step.
Yeah, I think that could bring us into a fresh look if you want, because that's sort of in line with mine for this week, even though we don't have print ready.
But no, I think that we can go in and our friends over at Leftern, just like last week, what they've been going through. Obviously, we don't know who the matchup is going to be against, so they can't do the prep work ahead of time.
A short week for us.
Crazy scramble to be able to put things together. So last week they had this awesome one. I called it the Josh Allen garbage pail kid card.
Yeah.
So they had this amazing one. There's still a couple of those left. This Chiefs one, there's already a ton of attention and things around. So they're expecting that to settle out quickly. Last week, the print was ready on Friday. So keep an eye out for it. We're going to share that. This is going to be another really, really exciting one, but there's all kinds of awesome stuff that you can go on the site. The shirt that I continue to rub in, that I have one of, that Aaron doesn't have. They have other good things on the site that you can go through. The Boost Buffalo shirts, the prints with
that if you for people watching, there's one of the old Buffalo. It says "One Before I Die."
Yeah,
I was told that this was not because of me. That this was a design that was already done, but I don't believe you, Greg. I think you did this because I look so dope in that hat, and I'm a cool guy, and I'm a vibe setter. I'm a trend setter. So that's the story I heard. That's what people said on Twitter.
Allegedly, that's what the people are saying.
So
I actually love the world tour shirt. So many. I wear a ton of the Leftern gear. This is my favorite one. The "We're Back, America," or "Deal with It, America." That banner, if anybody remembers it, back in that 4th Super Bowl run where nobody was rooting for us to make it, and they held it up in the stands. "We're back, deal with it, America." It's one of my favorite shirts. I wear it all the time. So all kinds of awesome stuff. Keep an eye out for it. We're gonna have their print ready. There's a couple left of the Pittsburgh one here, and this awesome kind of collaboration, all the different fun things, Buffalo all smashed together, and Josh's face melting as it's flying here. So anybody who loved Garbage Pail Kids growing up, gonna love this vibe, and the new one that comes out this week is gonna be really exciting. So keep an eye out for it as it gets ready.
So my fresh design of the week is going into this game and trying to make a prediction for a game like this. I don't know, Greg. Like, it really is dependent on what this injury report looks like and what type of defense we get. If it's the defense that they ran out and let Mason Rudolph attack the middle of the field and take a long sustained scoring drive, then I do feel like I agree with Ken in that Kansas City is going to figure out that red zone issue and they are going to march down and score touchdowns. But Sean McDermott spread a little crumble of hope this afternoon in saying that there's some hope that Terrell Bernard could play, and he doesn't use that kind of stuff like super loosely. He's real conservative.
I was torn. He never actually speaks that way.
I'm trying not to get excited, but
yeah. So shout out to our guys over at the Air Raid Hour. They actually made this like edited, like stress-free view. So they removed the guys who are going to play, who we've already kind of been told are the ones who are going to play, and just left the other players who are actually on the injury report, because the full one is, pretty intimidating when you see the full thing here. But, Josh Allen, we've already been told that Rasul Douglas already told us he's going to play. Terrell Dotson already told us he's going to play. Leonard Floyd, Micah Hyde, those guys are just on vet rest kind of thing. So I actually kind of like this filtered view.
I will say
I
get a little nervous.
Pay attention to.
I get a little nervous of players saying they're going to play because players are players. And
it's also not even their decision. It's the trainers who decide.
It is the trainer's decision, and the players are always going to play. Vaughn told us that his knee was fine, like days after he tore his ACL, and that he was going to be out a couple weeks. Like, these guys they want to play. So,
and I will say, Dotson and Douglas both practicing today is a very, very good sign. And I will say, I actually had this conversation on DM with Kyle Trimble. Taron Johnson already being limited on Wednesday is a huge step, which means he's already in the 3rd or 4th step of the protocol. I know a lot of people, if anybody watched the way he fell, it was really awkward and weird. And it was actually a conversation with Adam Pencil in our staff chat about, like, it wouldn't shock me if like the team and trainers saw that and be like, no, you're not going back out there. Like, that was weird. We got to take a look at you. He was mad. You could see he was arguing about not wanting to. There's video that he actually stopped and watched more of the game from the tunnel when they were trying to take him out. He was with the team celebrating after the game. So I have a feeling that this is a positive sign for Taron Johnson. And if you go back and look, the number of people who make it back in 1 week from a concussion protocol is pretty low this year. A lot of players were out. However, the ones that did, virtually all of them we're back to limited by Wednesday. That is a much higher correlation that if you're going to progress through, you had to be limited on Wednesday and show that you were already to that level of physical activity. So this doesn't mean
because
he
there's not enough
will. It
days.
means it's possible.
There's not enough days to go through the rest of the process.
Correct.
I think
If you haven't already progressed there, you don't have enough time, because some of those are time-based
Right.
stages. Like it has to be 24 hours with this, 24 hours with that.
Right.
So this doesn't mean he will. It just means it's now possible. And I won't say likely, but it means it's possible that he's going to play.
Yeah. So my level of confidence, I've had a lot of people texting me like, "Where are you at with this game? What are you thinking? What are you thinking?" And it's so dependent on this, right? Like if Taron Johnson and Terrell Bernard are playing, then yeah. And if we know Rasul Douglas is going, we know Dotson's back, then my confidence is going way up with the way this defense is clicking. But if it's going to be AJ Klein, if it's going to be Cam Lewis, like those Dane Jackson, I have confidence in some of these players, but not with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, Pacheco. Like that doesn't feel great. And so that's my fresh design of the week is get your spell together, Greg. That is conjure whatever it is we can, whatever hope we've got. That needs to be that. I don't make excuses for injuries. I never will, but this injury report needs to be as close to clean as the Bills can get it for me to feel any level of confidence that they can walk away with this one.
Yeah, and so there's pieces for me that I think matter more. So in this matchup, Taron Johnson is an all-pro, and the drop-off behind him of what we saw, that Cam Lewis was immediately the target, and that was with Mason Rudolph. That wasn't Patrick Mahomes. If we let Patrick Mahomes get a hold of that, that's huge. So Taron Johnson is the number one piece for me. Rasul Douglas would be in the running, but I'm going to believe he was pretty close. He's already said he was already practicing today. That seems the most likely of the group that's there. Now you get into, if we have Terrell Dodson and I then need either Taylor Rapp or Terrell Bernard, because if we get into those passing sets, we've shown what we can do in the dime linebacker set with Poyer as the guy in the middle. And I think we can survive that. It's way, way easier with Terrell Bernard. He's done such a good job pulling the defense together and calling it. But at least if we have Rapp back, we can lean into more of the dime snaps and have coverage set. If we don't have either, and now you're telling me I have to have one of AJ Klein or Balin Spector and Cam Lewis, like one of those guys have to be on the field every single snap. Now all of a sudden, that's a spot where Patrick Mahomes can nitpick and can just go at and try to find a way to attack. So I really would like to see one more piece, like whoever it might be out of that group. I need to see one more piece be able to come back in, and then I'll feel better. Right now, I feel like there's still a spot until we find progression tomorrow for Bernard, progression for Dodson, progression for Rapp. I need one more piece in there, and then I'll feel a lot better. But if I get Taron Johnson back, if I get Rasul Douglas back, that's going to help me at least go from, oh my God, like we're going to have to outscore. It's going to be 48-42 to now like, okay, maybe we got a shot here to still disguise some things, to throw some different things at him and use the crowd and all the different pieces we might have.
They're going to have to do something. For me, if AJ Klein's playing significant amount of snaps in a game like this, nothing against AJ Klein, I like him as a player, but I've seen what Patrick Mahomes did to guys like Tremaine Edmonds, and I know people hate Tremaine Edmonds, but he's a good, smart player, and he's still a good player. Yeah, much better than AJ Klein. And the type of decisions that they make you make as a linebacker split second, and knowing Andy Reid, if it's not Bernard, I mean, even if it is Bernard, he's going to attack some of that and make him force them to make some of those split second decisions. And I just think they're going to attack it too many times. You need some athleticism back there with the Chiefs. That's always been our biggest hurdle of beating the Kansas City Chiefs is athleticism. And even though they don't have Tyreek, they still have stuff that can stretch you vertically or horizontally. They still have a screen game that's going to force you to run horizontally and have athletic linebackers and get to the ball. And all those things just shape up. This is the kind of worst time for that middle of the defense to have so many questions going in to a game like this, because I was a little bit terrorized for the 4 minutes of that one Mason Rudolph drive where he was like attacking the middle of the field. And I was like, Mason Rudolph can do this. Literally anyone in the world can do this to us. And that's terrifying to me. And so until I see that injury report start to turn around, Greg, I'm not sleeping great at night.
Yeah. And so when I talk about that one more theory, that one more is what allows so if it's AJ Klein instead of Terrell Dotson, because we have Terrell Bernard, the one more means I can use AJ Klein like we used Terrell Dotson earlier this season. I can use AJ Klein in rundowns, heavy sets from KC, and him coming downhill and going forward, because when it's the obvious passing downs, we bring in the third safety and we take him off the field.
I don't think Raps for one more though. I don't.
Is when we don't have the piece to do that.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we have to stay in that nickel base because we don't have the piece to bring in. That's the issue.
I don't see Rap as the one more, because I feel if it's not Bernard, I think the Bills are going to have a hard time. I think Kansas City's going to be ahead of the chains more times than not with the run game, with what they're able to do. And that dime look helps more when you know it's going to be a passing look. Like Jordan Porter's done some nice things in the box, and Taylor Rapp can play in the box, but what the Bills linebackers can do in the box with a Taron Johnson is definitely much more what you want on a team that's going to, when they're going to run. So I just don't want them to be able to dictate to us. I want that to be in a situation where you have the more athletic set of linebackers out there so that I don't want to lose this game knowing that it was not our best guys out there and our most athletic guys out there. And for me, that's what Bernard brings mostly to that defense.
Yeah, and it's, even in that other set, you're still talking about the one linebacker on the field being Terrell Dotson.
Yeah,
so there's still limitations even in that.
And they'll expose that. Yes. And the limitations that I do think haven't been totally exposed. I'm worried about Rap with Casey too. Like it's been nice to have that dime look, but nobody's really attacked him in it yet.
Yeah.
No.
So a question that came up here, and something I didn't know after the game that I've learned since then. So Spin here is asking, can we still poach practice squad players? I'm going to talk quickly about the Sam Martin situation.
Yeah.
So I did some research. Shout out to Steve Mathis also was digging around, helped me find some things. There was a spot that most of us missed. It was on January 2nd of this year. And it was a kind of a clarification. We've seen rule changes over the last 4 years since they switched to the 16-man practice squad and the freeze for NFL rosters. So NFL rosters did freeze last week at 4 p.m. After that, teams are allowed to make up to 4 signings, no more than 2 in a week, to the 53-man roster. It also includes if you poach players off of another team's practice squad, because when you poach, you have to sign them to your 53-man roster, not to your practice squad. So the couple of things that doesn't include, if we activate a guy off injured reserve. So if say we open the practice window for Jordan Phillips, which we have not done yet, that would allow us to then activate him. It wouldn't count as a transaction. Injured or reserve is already on the roster, or some miracle of Matt Milano, something like that. The other side is on the practice squad, you're only allowed to have 6 vested veterans. So vested veterans means 4+ years of NFL Players Association accrued seasons. Each accrued season is more than 10 games in a season. So 4 years of 10+ games, you're a vested veteran. You're allowed to have 6 out of the 16 spots there. Our 6 guys were AJ Klein, Andy Isabella, Josh Norman, Jermaine Ifedi, Greg Mance, and Leonard Fournette. So I think some people got a little overboard on what Leonard Fournette offered. I do think he was a better receiver than Latavius Murray. He was probably about the same running the ball. Both of them have some moments. They can run hard. They're not running away from anybody, but they have some moments. And then Latavius Murray was a far superior pass blocker. Leonard Fournette straight up whiffed multiple times against Miami and didn't look all that interested in pass blocking. So I know McDermott went out of his way to say that it was not conduct related. That's a weird thing to need to clarify. Like, nobody asked him if it was conduct related. He felt the need to clarify that it was not conduct related. And I will say, Sal Capaccio is one of the most plugged in people that are out there. He also intimated that there may have been a reason that Leonard Fournette was the guy who got released. So no matter what, one of those 6 veterans had to be the part that was released. You probably could have argued with Ryan Bates and David Edwards on the active roster. Maybe Greg Mance could have been the 6th guy. I think they're debatable in a vacuum. I think they're pretty similar in value, but it could have been an argument to keep a running back on the practice squad, because now we don't have any.
Yep.
So having a running back would have been interesting to have. So, but he was the one who got released. One of those 6 had to be released, and it wasn't going to be a rookie punter like Matareza, who has not ever kicked in an NFL game, has never kicked in the cold, and has never held an extra point or field goal in an NFL game. They weren't going to find that out in the playoffs. For all the people who get passionate about him, I think he'll get a shot next summer in an NFL camp. We'll see whether that happens or not.
He got a shot this year, and it didn't work. Like, there's
no
a
team
reason.
was going to find that out in a playoff game for the first time. Having a guy who caught Reed Ferguson snaps before and held for Tyler Bass, I care about. Matt Hawk has done that. He's not a good punter. I don't care. I hope we don't punt in the game anyways. But I want a guy who knows how to hold and has done it before and has punted in NFL games. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to have to talk about it. I don't want to talk about punters at all.
Yeah.
The
Every
remainder of
punt's
the season.
turnover. I don't want to punt.
Yep. Pretty much. But thanks for the clarification of the rules.
Yeah, and so that means we can make more signings if we need to sign some other position or something like that through the playoffs. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we're getting guys back, not the other way around.
Correct.
But I wasn't sure when it has said roster freeze. I couldn't find the clarification.
The punter was the big.
Allowed to do any transactions, and we can do it before.
Yep. Cool. You want to go first? Do you want me to give a prediction? What do you think?
I'll go first.
Cool.
I think the Bills find a way. Obviously, there's some wish casting there. I think there's, a piece of me that wants that to be the case. I don't think we're going to be perfect on defense, and I do think Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way to pick on that and take advantage of it. But I didn't think we were going to shut him out anyways. Like, this wasn't going to be some 27-7 game. Like, I never saw that as the outcome here. We were going to have to outscore them and keep pace and just score more than they do. And I think this team has the balance. I think we have, again, I don't think NFL teams keep secret plays hidden away somewhere, but I think we have a couple things specific for this matchup that we've had in mind. I think that the coaches have been thinking about this game for a long time and have had some things ready and cooked up for this specific matchup. And I think we're going to see the absolute best performance from the team. I think they're going to be ready. I think the offense is healthy and focused and ready to go. And I think the defense, we've played shorthanded all year and we've figured out a way to make it work. And I think they're going to figure out a way to make it work. Our defensive line is healthy and is going to be able to cause some pressure. I think we're going to get Douglas back. We're going to have Poyer and Hyde. I think we're going to have Taron. We're going to be able to hang in there and make it work. And we weren't going to shut them out anyway. So we got to outscore them. It's going to be back and forth. There is a possibility of an element of the last team with the ball wins. I don't see a ton of scenarios where it's a Bills blowout. I just don't see that in the cards. I think there's a chance that we, win by a little bit more than a close score, but I think it's going to be back and forth. And I think the Kent's score is pretty close to what I'm expecting to see here. I've got it Bills 31, Kansas City 27. And I think it's going to stress us out. And I think I'm going to have a concerning heart rate most of the evening. And I think we're going to find a way. And I think it's going to be a big defensive play at the end that's going to save it. That we're going to go and score, but they're going to have time left on the clock and we're going to be nervous about it. And somebody's going to make a big play on defense. Maybe even one of those players we're worried about stepping up in a big moment to be able to make a big play. I've got Bills 31, Chiefs 27.
You and Ken are both a little bit higher on total than I am for this one. I got a feeling this one's going to maybe start out a little bit like KC moves the ball a ton. I think Bills I can see this playing out. Bills defer. Casey gets going. They're moving the ball a ton. Bend but don't break. They get 3 on the board or whatever. Bills come down, score, but then it gets a little quiet and the game starts to settle in. You see the defensive coordinators making adjustments. You see these
Spags get some things figured out.
I think too, the team's a little stiff. Mahomes and Allen pressing a little. We said that 13 seconds game didn't erupt until pretty late into that third quarter, right? Like it was a bit of a standstill. Teams weren't really scoring.
Heck, with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the score is way lower than what people remember. We just went touchdown for the last 6 minutes of the game, and it went bonkers to finish.
And so I think it's going to take I think it'll get stuck a little bit in that vibe. I've got this game ending. I've got Kansas City having the same problems that we've seen in having long sustained drives and frustrating Bills drives and ending in field goals. I have them getting 4 field goals and a single touchdown. And so I have it Bills winning on a final touchdown drive from Josh Allen. Maybe not a buzzer beater shot clock running out, but not maybe less than 13 seconds, but definitive touchdown drive ending it 21-19 in favor of the Bills. But I think it's going to be low scoring. I think there's going to be real stretches.
If we're down 14-19, my heart is
it's not ideal, but I think this is going to be, and it's just going to explode. This whole city's going to erupt. Josh is just going to rip that monkey right off his back. Sean McDermott's going to do the same thing. And I think he finally starts to get that respect from Bills Mafia and getting that monkey off his back in Kansas City. And shedding some of those demons. You got to shed some of those demons, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be low scoring. And that the worst isn't even maybe not even that final drive. There's going to be a section in the middle of this game where I think that scoring is going to be low. It's going to be close, and it's just turnovers and punt, and like nobody wants to take it in. Those are the worst. That just feels the worst to me. It's like the game's right there. So I think either way, you guys have higher scoring. I think we all have it projected to be one of these games where it's just going to come down to 2 to 3 plays.
Yeah. So a play that is some that just Smiles Blake here just brought up. I won't lie, I saw Von Miller bend the edge against Pittsburgh, and I hadn't seen that all season. I saw him turn, like he legit like dipped his shoulder and did that like crazy, doesn't look physically possible edge turn, and Rudolph got the ball out, and it didn't end up like actually changing it, but I was like, oh, I haven't seen that all year. I think there's a chance that we actually see a Von Miller contributing play here, which is sad that that's the bar, is that just him contributing would be a new thing.
Everyone would get over it if the game winning strip sack was to occur. I think everyone would get over everything that's happened for 6 months.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, obviously game-winning strip sack is a very, very high bar, but I don't think predicting a Von Miller impactful play is crazy. Yeah. I think that there's it's just, again, the first time I've seen it, before a couple weeks ago, it's like, oh, hey, I'm just happy that there's ups and downs. We've had no ups, so now at least I've seen him and he's contributing and hey, there's something there. And now all of a sudden, there were 2 reps where it was a legit hard corner turn, like how he sets up that ghost move, and then all of a sudden it was I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that from him here. There's a chance that we see an actual Von Miller impact play, and good Lord, could we use it?
I agree. I think it's I would put more money on it being like a AJ Epinesa or Groot deflection type play. We're not it's hard to sack Patrick Mahomes, but they seem to always get hands in the lanes and make some crazy play off the edge against Mahomes, trying to get those screen passes out. Keep your hands up, boys.
AJ Epinesa tip ball to a Cam Lewis interception.
I want it to Linval. Get it, Linval.
Oh my God, Linval,
I want that for you.
Intercepting the ball, that would be so fantastic. So give me a Poona Ford Fat Man touch, him rumbling with the ball.
I don't know if you can handle that. Rumbling. We would have to check on you.
Someone would need to come check on me if I see Poona Ford rumbling down the field with the football.
Yeah.
All right, man. So before we close up here, make sure you help us out. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review. Hit that like button. That's the way to do it here nowadays. And a lot of people, like we've talked about it here. We've had some really cool people sign up for the OnePass. So somebody did it for Aaron's birthday last week. If you guys are looking for a way to do this, we're gonna dive as soon as the season ends, hopefully in early February. We're going to switch over and do off-season, free agency. I'm going to do all of our salary cap spectacular. We're going to go through all kinds of different content from a draft standpoint. And you can go through there and be part of our community with our Slack channel and the awesome group that's there. I just helped some folks in the Slack channel get tickets to the game this weekend. We have a lot of really good discussion and really great things here. If you want to know a little bit more about it, listen to these guys here. Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One OnePass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
And those are some sharp guys.
Cute. Good. They're cute. Yeah.
So make sure you help us out. Press that like button here. Any final thoughts for the people?
I got all kinds of thoughts. I could do this all night. No, stay safe out there. If you are in the Western New York region, I hope you are shoveled out. And yeah, I do. I hope this one's a classic, but the other side of a classic, I hate having to tell that, like, yeah, I did witness the greatest quarterback duel in the entire history of football of mankind, and my team was on the wrong end.
Yeah.
And
I don't ever want to watch it again because it hurts.
Because it's pain. It's just pain. And so I want this to be a fun, good classic. Bills, Chiefs, great game, but I want the Bills to beat the big brother and come out on the other side. It's all I want in the world. And so the anxiety of this one hasn't quite hit me yet, Greg, but it's going to be all time here come this weekend, ramping up for this one. I don't know what I'm going to do. Clean my house 5 or 6 times. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, my house is going to be spotless.
Spotless.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hit that like button on the way out. We appreciate you so much. On behalf of our awesome producer, Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn, I'm Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we